Welcome to the newest episode of Saved by the Books, where two ladies with opposite reading tastes discuss all things reading.
Hey guys, what's up and welcome back to another episode of Saved by the Books. Paige and Becky are back from Bookcon, which is super exciting, and I'm glad to be home.
Yes, it was a lot.
Yeah, it was a very, very busy trip. It was a lot of fun, but I'm glad to be home. I have a lot of work to get done, but whatever. Anyway, today we wanted to tell you guys all about Bookcon, what we thought of it. I don't even know what else, but yeah, that's what we figured we would talk about. So Becky and I both had VIP tickets. So VIP tickets cost about $170 a person, and you got like different benefits for VIP. So we had a separate line for entrance, which we didn't really use.
Yeah, well, we didn't know that the first day.
We'll tell you all about that in a minute. And then you also had two exclusive autographing sessions per day. And at the last minute, they added where for each of those autographing sessions, you got a free book, which was amazing and such a awesome surprise. And we also got a tote bag with 2 books in it.
Then we got 3 signing tickets.
Yeah, we got 3 signing tickets. So each day had like autographing sessions. And so if you had a general admission, you got 2. And then if you had VIP, you got 3 signing tickets, and you got to get them like
early, the day before.
The day before. So I feel like VIP was like 100% worth it.
Yes, I agree. I think it really was worth it. Yeah. And we didn't really know how worth it was going to be until we started seeing everything playing out. Like I said earlier, the first day, because we did writing workshops.
Yeah, that was the other part that we wanted to talk about. So I think this was the first year that they were doing it, but I don't know for sure, but they did writing workshops. So for each day you could sign up for a writing workshop, and it was an extra $15 per day. So that's what we did each morning. So yeah.
Which I really liked because we got in the center before everyone else and could kind of see where things were. But also it meant we didn't have to get up at 3 a.m. and wait in line like everyone else, because that's what happened. People would get up at 3 a.m. So instead,
and I'm not getting up at 3 a.m. for nothing.
No, it's like no. So it definitely to me had like the Black Friday vibe. So it was nice to be already in the center, already kind of figure out where we were and like meet people who had done it before, and they really helped us. And so it was really nice that way because we weren't stressed or standing the entire time. And on the second day when we realized, oh, VIPs actually get on the floor a few minutes early, like we went through that line as soon, like we left our workshop.
We actually left the workshop early because the person teaching the workshop on Sunday was like, she was not going to be done by the time 10 o'clock rolled around. And I was like, girl, I got to get to the floor.
Yeah, we learned that. So we left early, and then as soon as we got down there, that's when they let in the VIPs, and that's when we got
2 books on Sunday. But yeah, so I just wanted to go ahead and mention like all the benefits for VIP. Like we both felt like it was worth it. I felt like it was a really reasonable price. Maybe because I'm used to, like, I've been to Gen Beauty, which is a makeup conference, and that ticket, just like general admission, was about $170. I've been, like, planner conferences tend to be like anywhere from like $200 to like $400 or $500. So like, to me, I guess to both of us, like it wasn't an unreasonable expense. But like general admission was like, I think like $50 a day or something.
Yeah,
so
something
like,
around that, or like $95 for the whole weekend or something. And that's the thing, like we went to New York just for this, was the primary purpose. And so we were both okay with spending that money because we also spent it back in November. So at this point we were like,
yeah,
oh,
I mean, it's been spent for a while.
Yes,
so.
and I mean, we planned for it. Like, instead of going not that I've ever gone Black Friday shopping. If I go, it's like at 9 a.m. on Black Friday.
We still went Black Friday shopping.
Yeah, we did for books. Shocker there. But like,
we were at Barnes and Noble before they opened the door.
Yes, we were in line for, which now I have total appreciation for people with Black Friday shopping, and we'll get into that in a second. But I mean, that was kind of like I just felt like the ticket price, that's what I spent instead of going, like doing some of the sales that weekend or whatever. It just, for me, it was kind of worth it. But,
I will say this too, though. I felt like some of the benefits weren't communicated the best way. Like the 3 signing tickets we mentioned, we thought we only had 2, and we thought for the VIP, like there's 2 signings per day, we thought we could only choose 1.
Yeah.
So for like one of our signings, we ended up, like Meg Cabot was one of the VIP people. Since we thought we could only choose 1 VIP person, we went ahead and like had a ticket for Meg Cabot.
Yeah.
And so like, it was one of those things where I was like, I know I saw that we could get 3, but like I couldn't find where.
Yeah, we couldn't find the emails because we searched for that first, and then even the day the tickets went live for that, they sent us an email like right before with a link, and going back and looking at that after the fact, we saw, yes, it said 30. But
yeah, but it was like one of those things where it was like we didn't see it.
We already knew it was going to be a crazy like a 1 minute second, yes, and it was, and how they had it set up. So it's one of those, luckily, because we are in the planner community, we are prepared.
To some ninja
yes,
fingers
we are
around here.
So I mean, it was just one of those types of deals.
Yeah. So I mean, I feel like some things weren't necessarily communicated. Another thing I felt like with the writing workshops, the staff, like the security staff,
had no clue.
Both days we had to explain to them like what the writing workshop even was.
And then they had like, different rules for the first day versus the second, and we're like, you let us go in yesterday, like this was totally okay. And
it wasn't like the second day they had gotten it together, because they hadn't. It was like in the place had 2 doors, right? So like we're at one door telling the security guard like, hey, here's our ticket, we are supposed to be in, like getting our workshop bands and all that, and there are other people going in the other door. So we were just like, do you not see the people in line right now? And they were like, no, you can't go in yet. I'm like, those are writing workshop people in line. It was just like a little frustrating.
And I was like, we did this yesterday with you, and he's like, just chill. And I'm like, no, I don't have an issue. I'm just telling you, like, do you not remember yesterday we went through the same thing? And you let us go through like earlier than this. Like, we know what we're doing. Like,
yeah, it was just, I felt like some of the communication was a little bit not there. Well, but I mean, whatever. It is what it is. It ended up working out.
And to me, it's kind of shocking because ReedPop is the one over Bookcon, and they're the ones in charge of the New York Comic Con. So
I wonder,
obviously the security, because everyone was like, you know, at Comic-Con, like the security's great and they know exactly and they can control things. At Bookcon, they had no clue what they were doing, like most of the time.
It was interesting.
Yeah, so we don't know if this was like their training for New York Comic-Con or what it was.
So yeah, but anyway, so back to the first day of Bookcon. We did not go to Book Expo. Book Expo is an event that takes place 2 or 3 days. I think it might be 3 days.
3 days.
Before Bookcon, and that is for anyone in the industry. So it's like bloggers, vloggers, librarians, teachers, any like media, anybody like that. Technically,
which we could have.
We both would have qualified for tickets, but we were just. Like, I remember when we were planning, we were just like, that is a lot of days.
Well, because it would have been 5 days. And, you know, because we wanted to do other things while we're there, because we're in New York. And we're like, that's basically 5 days nonstop at this convention with books. And now, I think if we go again, I would do the Book Expo based off of what, like, we've heard, because, we'll get into more.
I have decided I would do Book Expo and because basically there's two different things that like you could be doing at Bookcon. You could either be getting ARCs and meeting authors and meeting publishers, or you can be in the panels. And there was never time to do both, because you had to be in line for an ARC or like a book like an hour beforehand,
at least.
So it was like you never had a minute to go over and like listen to the panels. So if I had to do it again, I would go to Book Expo and then I would go to Bookcon and do the panels at Bookcon.
I agree, because
the panels all sounded really interesting. There was a lot of ones about like world building and magic system building, and there was a bunch of like, there was a few different like romance,
right, like there was one dealing with like feminist and historical settings, and so like one of my favorite authors, she was a part of that one, and I would have loved. Or there was like the Manhattan romance, so about books that take place in New York. That sounded interesting. Or
there was also some that were like about the book community online, which would have been interesting. So there was definitely a lot of panels that we missed out on that I would have liked to see.
Or even those where they were pitching their writing.
Yeah.
So
that was actually been one of the authors, one of the publishers,
right?
too.
And so that would have been interesting. And just like we kind of made the decision in the moment to just kind of stick with ARCs and like some of the free books available at the different publishing
which, by the way, centers. I just posted a book haul on my channel, so I'll leave it linked down below, or I'll put it in the description of this video so you can see what books that we actually got, because we pretty much got identical books. She got like, we had like a couple of differences, but yeah.
And so we decided to do that because we wanted the ARCs, which are advanced reader copies, for those that don't know that,
because we're not lucky enough to receive them in the mail, quite honestly. Like, that's the reason I wanted them.
Exactly. I mean,
this was the only chance that I had, like, I had to get them.
Well, and see, and we ended up having a great time doing that, meeting the people, but also some of the authors and those publishing, like, underlined, like, those people were amazing and just really personable and just...
And Harlequin.
Yes. And they were...
loved them.
Yes,
and
those were the... And
the Hoopla booth was amazing.
So those were the three we basically stuck with the whole time. There was a few instances where we'd see and we're like, oh, we're going. Or we found us... In one of the lines, someone shared about a secret ARC drop with Orbits, and so that was really cool.
And she was really cool too.
Yes.
The Orbits person was really cool.
And so we kind of chose that, and then we ended up not doing the book signings because we're like, a lot of these books you can get signed at this point.
Yeah, for the autographing sessions, almost, not all of them, but a lot of them required a purchase, which to me kind of defeated the purpose, because if I like want your autograph, I already read your books, I probably already own them, and so I was just kind of like, whatever. And then like Becky just said, like, since you can buy signed books at like Barnes and Noble or anything, like, to me it was more fun to like talk to the authors and talk to the publishers and talk to people in line. So
and that's how we learned a lot, like meeting like there's a bunch of mother-daughter combos or librarians or someone that was actually in charge of a festival, and so just hearing their take on things, and plus that actually allowed us the time to sit, because by that point our feet were killing us.
We'll talk about some of the sites that we saw like at the end of this, but we figured we should like jump right into the Bookcon stuff, because like that's what you guys are probably most interested in.
I mean, it really is like you have to be on your game. I feel like it's a mad dash,
and
like,
I will say that people that have gone years prior, I've seen a few people say that like they usually go without a plan, and this year you needed more of a plan as to like where you were gonna be when, and like where you were gonna line up when, because like, I'm not even joking, guys, at one point Becky and I got in line like an hour before the event, like the ARC drop, and it capped 4 people in front of us.
We were so mad.
And so then the next day, they were like, oh, well, we're going to do the same books again tomorrow at 1:30. And so we were there at like 11. And we were like, we are here.
And that's how everyone did it. And then that book got stolen. But
that's another story. We'll get there. But anyway, so back to, I guess let's go chronologically. So the writing workshop on Saturday. This was a fiction writing workshop. I found it really enjoyable.
I really liked the presenter, because she was a professor for one of the local local colleges, and how she did it was I thought she did great.
She did really well at like keeping it like a class you like that you would go to. And so it was a lot of stuff that I kind of already knew.
Yeah.
She talked a lot about like genre fiction versus literary fiction. And then also she talked a lot about writing process. And I thought that was really interesting because she had like exercises that really made you kind of like analyze your writing process and like what works for you and what didn't work.
And then she had, she made you think about your characters. So just like in general situations and what their motivation is. And so she broke that part down a little bit more, which I thought was interesting. Like how they would respond, or like how one of them was like if they went into a coffee shop and ordered coffee, like what, you know, what would it be, or how they would ask, or any
like,
of that type of stuff.
How would they respond like to awkwardness or embarrassment or anything like it was just like kind of like little things you may not necessarily think about until it's like part of your narrative. And then you're kind of like, oh.
And I was like, and that's critical. Like it truly is, because it's making your character
more well-rounded.
Yeah, and relatable and stuff. So I thought that was really interesting. And so like I truly enjoyed it.
Yeah. And so then that was from 8 to 10, and then we hit the show floor, and it was insane. Like they're basically all of the major publishers. This was one negative about the writing workshop. One of them dropped tickets. So basically for a lot of the big ARC drops, you had to have tickets. One of them dropped tickets at 9:30. So we were in the workshop. There's no way we could have done it. And then like one of them dropped all of their Saturday and Sunday tickets on Saturday at 10 a.m. And so like Saturday morning at 10 a.m. I was like, I think both of us were just kind of like
stressed.
We're done. Like I was literally like, I will go and drink for the rest of this
Well,
day.
and then there was one, because we learned about, and it was happening at 10. It was an ARC drop. I think it was for Cursed.
Yeah.
And that was a big one.
Apparently.
But then, so we run to that, but nope, it's like over and done with. And we're like, it's 10 o'clock right now. How can already all these books? And that's one of the things with Bookcon is sometimes the publishers only had like, one time they only had 10 ARCs to give, or 25 ARCs to give. And this is an event with 7,000 plus people at it. So that was frustrating. And I get publishers only have a set budget and stuff, but... And so I don't know how it could have been better, but I would think at least having 100 copies would be a lot, but I don't know.
I understand, like,
I do too.
I get that, like, that part of it. What I didn't like was the ticket drops that were for Saturday and Sunday. Like, even as somebody, like, I didn't get those tickets, obviously, but even, like, if I had, like, I would have been like, man, somebody who's only coming Sunday, like, they were just out of luck. And so, like, that just kind of sucks, but... Well,
and so we were kind of like, whatever at that point. We both were like, okay, we're done. And then that's when we found the Hoopla. And then we
met Julia London, who was really, really sweet. And she was signing one of her books, Seduced by a Scot, and she told us that, like, later that day? Later that day, she was going to be signing another one of her books.
It was the Royal one.
Yeah, a Royal Plan, maybe?
Maybe that was coming, and that was the ARC. And she's like, you know, come over there. It was at the Harlequin. That's what we said. We loved those two. But, and so she's like, come over there later because I'll be signing those. And then we stayed for Stepsister. By
Jennifer Donnelly, and she was really nice. Basically, we ended up, like, on Saturday especially, like, we just stuck with, like, the small booths, and we just completely ignored the large publishers, because they were just mad houses. And understandably, because they're the large publishing houses, but they were just, like, insane. So many people at them,
and it was overwhelming.
It was just overwhelming.
First time. And then after that, we were like, okay, let's regroup and let's go up to the VIP signing. And those were two we weren't necessarily interested in, but I'm so glad we went, because
and they were so
the authors
nice.
Amazing,
and they completely turned my mood around. Like, they didn't even know I was, like, annoyed, but, like, just, like, talking to them and, like, chatting, it completely turned my mood around. I was like, this is what I'm here for.
Yeah, and that's when we kind of stuck with the two. And you know, there was a couple of cases we would be, you know, but I think that was it. And that's our first day. We ended up with, I think, 13 books each.
I think 10.
I thought
because that was it was lower, because on Sunday we ended up with more books.
Right, but I thought it was 13. Well, including all the VIP stuff. Oh, okay.
I don't
Yeah.
know. I thought it was just 10. I could be wrong.
I don't know. But, so we did that. And then, I mean, that's just basically what Saturday was.
Saturday, and I think the last booth we went to on Saturday was just some
Yes.
random booth. I ended up seeing some people from the Creating and Co Book Club,
Yes.
which was awesome. And we just kind of like hopped in the line with them, and it was this guy named Matt Michelatos, and he was signing his second book. And so he was so nice and so personable that we both bought his first book.
Yes.
And we were just like, we're just gonna buy your first book.
Yes.
And like, both of us had really good and like different conversations with him, even though like we were like
standing next to each other.
We were
Yes.
clearly friends,
Right.
but like he like definitely like individualized
Yes.
each thing.
I mean, he was
And
very personable.
Yeah, he was just so awesome. And so that was the end of
Yes.
Saturday.
Yeah, and we're like, okay, we're good. And so then we decided we need to get a game plan together.
And we did leave
Yes.
early both days.
Yes.
So I think we left around like 3.
Yeah, because I mean, both of us had a bag full of books. And one thing I do like that we did, our hotel was only 2 blocks away. So that was, I think, that was really an advantage for us because we didn't have to wait on an Uber or a cab or anything.
We did a lot of walking in New York, you guys. It was great.
Yes, and lots of blisters. But, so,
no, and I'm not
Yeah.
even being sarcastic.
No,
Like, it was great.
yeah, and I
I will say this, like one of my favorite things about New York is the subway system.
Yes.
So, yeah.
I didn't even realize that was your first time until I watched your vlog.
No, like I had never been on the
I had no
subway.
idea.
No. I was just a pro right away.
You did well. And then, so we went back to
I
the
don't
hotel.
think, no, legitimately, like, I know somebody who, like, was talking to me about how, like, they would sometimes get on going the wrong way, and I, like, we didn't do that once.
No, it's happened to me once when I was over in London, and it was just the signs or whatever, and so...
Yeah.
And then we're like, oh, you just get off at the next stop and go the other way. But no, we didn't have any of those issues.
I will say this, though, if I was by myself, I could easily see me missing my stop, because I would just get to reading or
you
looking
would,
at
yeah.
Facebook, and I just would not pay any
She's
attention.
definitely, you would zone out, or you would be taking notes for your book. Like,
I was just like thinking about, I was like, man, if I was doing this every day for like a commute, I'd probably show up like 3 hours late at home. Like, oh, I've just been riding the subway up and down.
And so that afternoon, because we had to rest, like our feet seriously were killing us. But we ended up, we're like, okay, we got to have a game plan because there was a few things we truly wanted.
But I think, okay, so like,
But it was a broad game plan.
Before Bookcon, there is just so much information. There's no central location to find out everything because you have Bookcon who's doing like Bookcon's events. And then you have each publisher, they're doing different events.
And they don't communicate.
And they don't like, I mean, they communicate, but not like,
No.
there's no central location.
Well,
and so like before we were like, I was so overwhelmed.
Yeah.
I was just like, you know, I'm just gonna have to get there and figure it out because I don't know.
And we learned, I mean, the Bookcon group on Facebook was, I think, really good and helpful. And we met some people through that. And they would post some things regarding like what was going down or where stuff was
like
available.
Like somebody would post like, oh, like Simon and Schuster has
Yes.
dropped their schedule, so here it is.
Yes.
Like, so we had the schedule,
Right.
But
then
it was still just like so much that it was just so hard to figure out.
Well, and then the individual, and see, then the authors would post on Instagram or Twitter. And so we actually got into Twitter because primarily
you had to have Twitter.
Right, and so we would be scrolling that constantly because the authors and publishers will drop things, or there's at one point there were secret images, or like...
Oh, wait, we missed a big part of Saturday.
We did, I just realized.
So, there was an ARC drop for Merciful Crow.
At Fake Crate.
And we were part of that. And it was interesting. Basically, this was one of the secret arcs. So you had to like have like a picture, and you had to have like retweeted this and followed all these people.
Yeah, the author posted
naively. I didn't think that many people would be there. But I mean, and I haven't heard much hype around Merciful Crow until Bookcon.
Yeah.
So yeah, like I hadn't, like I had actually added it to my Amazon cart because I thought it was a book, and I still think it might be a book that Cody and I would both like. But yeah, so we get there and there's one ticket left, and everybody's crowding around and security's trying to like usher people away. And he keeps telling people that you're not in line, but then he's like, but he's not making a line.
No, and we didn't get there we got there before the tickets even dropped. Like, and so.
We got there before the tickets were supposed to drop.
And the people, like, we were in, like, towards the front, how it was, because it was, like,
it was literally just like a mob.
It was a mob, and, like, the security's like, I need to see the picture. And then, so, like, he literally took someone's phone to be like, this is the picture I need to see. And it was the tweet. And then the author dropped a new one. So everyone's like, he's like, I need to see the second picture. And we're like, dude, like, okay, like, all of us are redoing it like crazy. And then he's like, okay. And the person in the front, like, at Fake Crate was handing out the tickets, and we were right there, and she was like, I'll be right back. Well, it turns out she just ran away. And then there was this one person,
I'm sure she walked away and got caught up doing something and then just didn't make it back. I'm sure. Right. I hope. I mean, that's what, if it was me, that's what would happen with me.
I would have run away based off of the mob that was there. Like, I don't blame her. But, and then,
no, see, I've worked retail Black Friday shopping.
No, I will never. Again, that's why I don't go Black Friday shopping unless it's a Barnes & Noble.
No, my thing is, and I think this is why, like, my thing with Bookcon and with Black Friday, don't try to get the big stuff.
Right.
Like, don't go for, like, the thing, like, if a PS4 is $100, like, don't, like, just assume you're not getting it. And I think that's what the concept, like, the mindset you need to have for Bookcon. Like, let everything you get be a surprise.
Yes.
And, like, that way you can kind of enjoy yourself. Because, honestly, like, if I had been in, like, like, when I kind of sit back and think about that Merciful Crow thing, I'm just like, this is hilarious.
It really was,
we were going crazy for books.
Yeah, it got down, and that's what, and we'll talk about it on Sunday.
More about that later.
Well, and then the lady got down to one ticket, and she's like, back up, because I'm serious, when people were crazy over this arc, and she's like, back up. She's like, I'm gonna take a number. She's like, I only have one ticket. I don't know how else to do this. So you actually had to get it like right on the number, and someone did. And so that's when
I'm gonna Google to see when this comes out, because watch it come out in like a week.
Oh my gosh, that would be hilarious. But and so yeah, so then that's when we went and found this other, that's when we found that, and it was fun. When is it?
It comes out on July 30th, you guys.
Oh my gosh, that's
so
ridiculous.
It will literally be available in like a month. It's okay.
Well, you just got approved for it on NetGalley, didn't you?
No.
No, you didn't?
It's a different one.
Oh, okay.
There is
isn't there another crow one?
There is. There's so many.
Okay. I guess it's the new thing is the crow.
Yeah, crows are the new thing.
And snakes.
And snakes. But yeah, it was just interesting.
Yes.
And that was the moment I was like, I am not doing this anymore. Now, flash over to Sunday, because we'll talk about that. So anyway, let's start at the beginning of Sunday.
So Sunday we went to the fantasy workshop.
We had a game plan. We had a very loose game plan. It was like 3 things that we wanted to make sure that we hit.
Yes.
And honestly, like, even like those 3 things, like, we wouldn't have had time even outside of those to do panels. No. Because it was like, you needed to be in line for this at like as soon as the other thing was ending. So it was just kind of, yeah, like I said, there's just no time to do both. But we did do the fantasy writing workshop. We had both times at the workshops, we had amazing tables. Yes. Like, they were just like the best. I literally like led us to the back, and I was like, I am a back of the class kind of girl, and it paid off.
Well, because we knew on Sunday, we're like, okay, we are leaving this thing early. And so right where we were, you could just go slip through, because I set it by curtains, so we could just slip through and not be rude, because thank goodness we did, because she honestly was taking forever.
I mean, I think the rest of her workshop would have been really good.
Oh yeah,
I just think it would have definitely run over.
Yeah, it would have.
But yeah, she had a lot of stuff about like world building and things that, like, I felt like a lot of her answers could have been the same thing, because it was like, how would you like show different things about your world? And it was like, obviously, like the way the characters talk, or the way that they, or the things they see, or the things they do, or like, but we talked a lot about just like
well, even how like how your life is actually plays out, kind of, you know, like what events influence your writing, like why you pick that genre or any of that, whether it's
I had a therapy breakthrough, and it was, I'm not going to share it, but it was way cheaper than my therapy sessions, and it was great.
Right, and it truly explains most of your taste in certain things.
It's
it was really
totally
good.
crazy, especially because like the way that like the things I read and the things I write, like it's like totally like
it's like, oh, it makes sense.
You know what? We can. It all boils down to childhood, you guys. Every last bit of it. But yeah, it's great. And so we talked a lot about that. And then at the table, we were just having a whole bunch of talks about like a whole bunch of different books and fandoms and
movies and everything.
It was great.
It was really good.
It was great.
They were good.
And then they would like, we got into a discussion, like a debate about J.K. Rowling and the whole death of the author thing, which I think is probably something we should do an episode on. Yeah. So the death of the author concept, if you've never heard of it, is like, does the author have, I guess, I hate to say this word, the right, because I mean, you have the right to say whatever. If you live under freedom of speech, you have the right to say whatever. But does the author have the right to add to their canon after the fact? Like, do they have the right, once again, to like tweet about something? And so we got into like this debate about J.K. Rowling because of course she's like notorious for tweeting out different things about her like whole magic world, and like, oh, this was canon all along, you just didn't know. And so they walked, like one of the
moderators,
assistants like walked over, and she's like we were totally off topic, but she was like, yeah, I guess whatever, y'all just keep going.
And she's like, yeah, you're right. It was
a lot of fun. Yeah. But yeah, so I definitely recommend the writing workshops. And
so then after that, so we left about 10 minutes early. We went down and we were at the very end of the VIP line, because we learned about that. And see, with VIP, you're led onto the floor about 5 minutes early.
No, I don't even say it's 5 minutes early. It was like, as the first group of general admission lets in, they let in all of VIP. Because it was like 9:59.
Yeah. I don't know. We just knew, and so like
we just walked down there and they were letting everybody in.
Like, okay, let's go. And we knew not to go to the big publishing houses. So what we did, there was one, and it's actually, and I forget the name of it, something Beatrice. But
Becoming Beatrice.
Yes. And I saw something about it before, and I was like, oh, and the writer was right there. So we got that. And I was the first one in that signing, and then Paige was going, and then she's like, starts hitting me, and she's like, go. And I was like, what? And all I knew, I saw a bunch of red. All I could see is red and people lining up, and so I ran. And then Paige is like, go. Sprinting around, and this is, I mean, a joke, but like, honestly, that's the first time we've been running like in ages. But, and I was like, and it turns out it was, sequel to...
it was Kingsbane, which is the sequel to Furyborn, and she was doing a full copy signing, which was
hardback.
Awesome.
It was gorgeous,
and
it was for the first
50 got the book free, and then the people after that, they could buy the book for like $10.
Yeah, it was $10, which is an amazing deal.
Which is half off.
Yeah.
And so yeah, we got in the first 50, Yay! And like as soon as we walked away from that, I was like, okay, today's gonna be better. And then during that, like. So Scholastic just laid out stacks
and we learned about that. Yeah, so while she stayed in line, like it literally was forming, and Scholastic happened to be like right across, and I just saw huge stacks of things, and it was like, I told her, I was like, hold this, I'll be right back. She's like, and I just ran. Cause yeah, Bookcon, you run.
You run.
Who would have thought?
For books that you don't even really know about.
So I just grabbed two of, cause I'm not one to just take, cause I'm like, oh, I feel bad. And the guy was standing there, and it's like, so can I get these? He's like, yes. Cause it turns out the day before we missed like a preview of the new Harry Potter Illustrated, which we had no clue. But Scholastic, what they do, they actually just set out massive piles of stuff. So I just grabbed two of everything. And it was a bunch of like middle grade, and there was like one like children's book and stuff. And since I have my nephews and plus middle school teacher, and then Paige has her family members, I was just like, let me grab two of each, and then we can figure out if we're keeping them or not, or whatever. Yeah. So I did that, and then jumped back in line, and then that's when we got Kingsbane.
That's when we got Kingsbane.
And she was amazing. She was so nice. I haven't read the book yet. It's on my shelf because, I mean, I've just gotten into fantasy this last year, but yeah, she made me really like her.
She signed one of my book plates for Furyborn. So now that's technically signed.
Yes.
Which, by the way, let me know on Instagram if you guys want to see book plates in the shop, because I made them for myself, and I guess for Becky too, because she used them too, for Bookcon, but I could definitely list some if you guys want them. But anyway, So then we ran upstairs to meet Meg Cabot and Sarah McLean.
My favorite.
Was like her favorite.
Well, Meg Cabot was childhood hero, and I read all of her books. And then Sarah McLean, I was introduced about 7 years ago by one of my co-teachers. And so I love both of them, and I've loved everything. And then we got both of their new books, which I was so excited for.
And
it was
okay, so
sweet.
like so in the VIP email it said which book they were gonna have, and it wasn't the one Meg Cabot was giving.
No, we thought it was gonna be Princess Diaries.
we thought we missed the arc of Meg Cabot, and we ended up not, which is so I'm excited to read it.
Yes, because it's her new like adult, and she had one that came out last month, and this one comes out I think in September, but yeah, so I was just thrilled because truly those are the two people I wanted to see and meet. Like, those were my things. And then talking to Sarah McLean, and because I'm in she has a Facebook group. It's the Old School Romance Book Club. And so I was like, yes, I'm a part of that. And so she knew some of the people when I talked about it. And I even posted in there, and so she loved it, and I was like, oh my gosh, Sarah McLean just loved my post. And then she just got a puppy the day before, and so I knew that, and I was like, she's like, oh my gosh, I didn't know my life would be taken over with this dog. Like, I had no idea 24 hours ago. So I don't know, she's just my person, and she's really cool. So then we went and did like a romance novel giveaway thing, and then we got in line for Coral and Pearl, and and
the crown of Coral and Pearl,
right? And then Rebel Girls. So we spent about 2 hours there because that's the one we missed out the day before by 4 people, and so
but that line, like, because we all got there like 2 hours early, and like everybody was so chill and so
like we just sat there.
And we all just sat there and chatted. Like, I loved that
because what they did and what was good about them and Hoopla, they would give out. As soon as a line formed, they would hand out tickets. And so that guaranteed you a book. Like, no one else was allowed to join in. No one could get more than 1 ticket. It was just one of those things. So then we just honestly hung out there, and that's where we learned about the secret arc
the
from
Queen
Orbit.
Who Conquered.
And it looks so good. And so we would all actually, because one person shared with us, then we slowly got up as like random people in our section to go.
That was one of the other things that I felt like was missing from Saturday, is that Saturday I felt like it was such like a feast or famine situation, whereas on Sunday it was like more, and I don't know if it was just us in general, but like or like if we felt more comfortable, but like we made friends with the people in line, and so like we could like jump out of line, like run over and get something, and like, or whatever, and so it wasn't like, I must guard my spot. This is my spot.
Well, and I think the big thing, because like even looking through like Bookcon and Instagram after the fact, most people only went Saturday, and so Sunday it felt a lot chiller and like calmer for most of it.
Oh, we're about to get there. So after we did The Crown of Coral and Pearl, which I am so excited to read, but I swear I will never get that title right, ever.
No, she's tried for days.
And Rebel Girls. So we got those. The authors were super sweet. And then we went to get American Royals by Catherine McGee.
Like, we went immediately there. So we were there about 2 hours early.
Yeah, so basically we went over there at 1:30. It wasn't dropping until 3.
And we talked to
the
publisher.
There were already about 8 people. Yeah. 8 or 9 people
right there, over there. For the same, because they were finishing up another author signing. And we talked to the publisher because it is a part of Penguin, and so it was underlined. And they were super, super nice, because we dealt with them the day before, because we did a dice a dice roll. We forgot about that. But, and they said, no, we'll drop tickets at 2:30. And so that's basically, you can't form a line until that happens.
And like prior to this, an unofficial line started forming.
And we were like, honestly, 9 and 10. Like, we were right there.
Yeah, we were like right there. Well, what ended up happening was that it became a mob. And guys, maybe because I'm excited for this book. Like, I legitimately am.
Well, we almost walked away.
When I first saw it, I thought it was just going to be like a cutesy contemporary about like some rich family in like probably New York or Washington or something, you know? No. Like, just go look at the cover and you'll see why I thought that. But then when I read the synopsis, it's an alternate history about like if we had given George Washington a crown after the Revolutionary War. And so I was like there, like I wanted to read this book. And then I just didn't realize it until we were already sitting there. Catherine McGee is the one who wrote 1000th Floor.
Right, which we're
reading this month.
This month for the podcast.
And so I was like, this is just fate.
Yes.
Like, we have to get this book. Well, the mob just kept forming.
Well, we met one of our creating co-friends.
Yes. Me and Megan, we are now best friends because we survived the Hunger Games together.
And see, like, security was called in, and the guy, they asked where's the, and we're like, they didn't let us start a line.
Yeah, so they wouldn't let us form a line. And they, like, the security was shocked that they wouldn't let us form a line.
They brought out, like, the biggest guy ever, and he just couldn't believe what was happening over a book. And then he's like, yesterday they had me. Well, it's funny, right? And he's like, yesterday my biggest job was to guard a back elevator. I just stood there and watched it. And then today they asked me to be out on the show floor, and he's like, what did I get myself into? Because they couldn't believe we couldn't form a line, and we had to keep saying, because it was Penguin was right there, and they're like, no. And then they're like, well, I mean, because it was truly, it suddenly became like 200 people, and we're like, we were in the first 10. Like, you should take it from, because we were right where a line should have formed, and then it went out, and it just spread out sideways. And so what they decided to do was to have 5 people with 10 tickets.
I think it was more than that. They had 5 people with some tickets, and they all went to like different points of the mob.
Except for the middle. They did not go to the middle.
They did not go to the middle.
No.
And so I ended up with about like 4 people on my back trying to reach over me for tickets. Yeah. And at that point I was like, I am done. I will just read this when it comes out. And so I actually was gonna leave, and I ended up getting a ticket and waiting in a long line. As Cody said, I sent him a picture, and he's like, so did you get the collection of paper? And I was like, no, I got this little paper. And he goes, so you want an appointment? And I was like, yeah, yes, basically. But Catherine McGee was super sweet, and she signed a book plate for my 1000th Floor copy. But yeah, that was craziness. So after that, we were like, we're going home.
I did not get a copy because I just couldn't fight people. And then I got lucky though later on. But I did lose. Well, I didn't lose.
Yeah, during this mob.
Yeah, someone stole one of my ARCs, the Rebel Girls. So
So someone out there has an ARC signed to Becky.
Yes. So if you find it, I would love to have it back. Read it, send it to me, please.
And she can read my copy, obviously, but it's
and I have the ARC of it from NetGalley, but I'm just like, really? I waited for 2 hours for this thing, and the author was super nice when we talked nails, because their nails match the book covers. And she's like, one day when you're here, you can do the same thing. And I'm like, oh, that's sweet. Yeah. But yeah, so I went off because obviously there was no reason for me to stay there. I went off and went back to Harlequin because they actually were giving out like a random fiction, like it was a feel-good fiction. So I actually picked up one of Susan Mallory's books, which I've read all of her books.
And it looks really good.
Yeah. And then I came back and I was just chilling. And then that was the
end of Bookcon.
Because we ended up with so many books. And so typically what we've heard is at the end of Bookcon, and I actually saw it at Matt, at his thing, they were actually giving away some of the books, but we already had them. But typically what we've heard is that publishers don't want to take any of the books back with them, because that means shipping them back or carrying, you know, if they're in New York, obviously they just take them with them, but so they typically will just give them out for free to anyone or super discounted.
So we can't really confirm or deny that happened.
I just saw it with the one group because they did do it right in front of me, but like I said, we already had the books. But we decided to leave because at that point we already had enough books and we already knew we were going to be shipping them.
And after the mob, I was like, I just want quiet.
Yeah, because it was insane.
15 minutes. I just wanted quiet.
Penguin filmed it, so it's probably somewhere up there.
It's probably on their stories or their Instagram. It's actually, I have a clip of it in my vlog, I think.
Yeah, there is a clip of the number of people.
Go watch that. But yeah.
But that was the end.
That was the end of Bookcon. It was a very busy 2 days, a very confusing at first 2 days.
But it was fun. It was an experience.
It was a lot of fun. And
I think if you're in the New York area, like, it's a cool thing to go to. Like, I think if I lived there, I would go all the time.
I think I would still go. I don't think I would now, because I've been to New York, and so, like, we got to see all the sites, which we'll go into in a minute. I don't think I would turn it into a long trip like I did before.
You would just do the quick weekend.
I would just do the weekend, and then, like, I would fly in Friday night and fly out Sunday afternoon.
See, I would probably, if I did Book Expo, I'd probably stay through Sunday and, like, do some of this stuff.
If I do Book Expo, I'll do Book Expo and Bookcon. But yeah, I don't think I would I don't think I would sightsee very much while I was there,
because it is exhausting.
Yeah, but no, there's nothing else there that, like, I really care to see. So I just, like, there's really no reason for me to. But, like, we were there we flew in on Thursday. We flew out the following Tuesday. We were supposed to fly in on Wednesday, but our flight got canceled.
Yep.
So we had a 6 in the morning flight, which meant the night that we got there, I hadn't slept in 23 or 24 hours. So that was great.
We were exhausted.
But we did the Empire State Building the first day. It was fine.
We saw fog come in. It
was the Empire State Building.
We climbed 6 flights of stairs.
That was a bad idea for me.
Yeah. And so...
Not because of tiredness, just because I have some health problems that were exacerbated by that.
I was going to say, I got my bronchitis that day because I was just getting over all that. So that wasn't, you know, higher altitude type of thing.
And then we went to a pub called The Cauldron.
Yes, that was fun.
That was a lot of fun. It's basically like a fantasy-inspired bar, and you can pay to do a potions experience. And so it's an hour-and-a-half class, and you mix 3 potions. And it was a lot of fun.
It really was.
The people who worked there get really into it.
I mean, they're definitely theater based.
They are definitely like theater. And then as we were leaving, 2 people were playing like Mario Kart, and I was like, this is the bar for me. Like, we need one of these in Memphis. So that was a lot of fun. I was really tired, and it poured right before.
Yeah, there was a flash flood warning as we were leaving. Yeah.
But it was fun. And then Friday, we did 9/11 Museum, we did Statue of Liberty and Ellis Island.
Which Ellis Island, I mean...
Ellis Island was my favorite. Like, that is one thing I will say, I could go back now, like, right this minute, and, like, go read all the same plaques again. Yeah. And
it would be a really good day. We could just write there.
I was going to say, I would have loved to bring my laptop and just sit there and write all day long. Especially because, like, when I was in 5th and 6th grade, I read a ton of books that were historical fiction and that had a lot of characters that immigrated through Ellis Island. So it was just, like, bringing back all of those memories. And then I was, like, I couldn't believe that, like, I was, like, it's just hard to wrap your head around the fact that, like, so many people came through Ellis Island, and so many people had some really, like, amazing things happen to them there, and some really, really tragic things happen to them there, too. So yeah, that was definitely my favorite of the, like, whole trip, probably.
Yeah, because I mean, we did the 9/11 memorial, and that was the second time I'd been there.
And that was so emotional, because it takes you back to that moment. Day.
Yeah.
They have a lot of, like, just photographs, and then they have a lot of, like, quotes from people that talk about, like, when they were, like, where they were doing, like, what they were doing, and where, like, all of that stuff for that day. And then, like she just said, they have a bunch of, like, the voicemails playing. They have, like, news stories playing. And so, yeah, it does take you just right back.
Well, and seeing for both of us, like, my brother.
But I will probably never go back, because it's so sad.
Yeah, I was gonna say her husband joined after, you know, so it's...
Yeah, I feel like we were talking about this, I feel like our generations especially were, like, so shaped by 9/11. Because, like, you're in high school, right?
Yeah, I was a junior.
And so I was toward the tail end of elementary school. And so, like, she got, like, the direct aftermath, but, like, I grew up, like, always knowing a country that was unofficially at war.
And like, I truly remember the time way before war, and, like, air travel, and, like, all that. But then
I've never flown in a pre 9/11 world.
And see, that's how because my mom was military, and so we lived on we were on the Gulf Coast, and her family was up along the Great Lakes, and so it's across country that way. But I mean, we always flew. Like, my mom always said, we had frequent flyer miles in our own card before we even went to kindergarten. So it was that's just how my family travel anywhere. And so I mean, and just like, I know so many people from high school, because I was a junior, enlisted immediately. And so having that, because when I was a senior, that's actually when the war was declared. And so I remember my family was actually on a family trip when that
officially I remember it just not being declared forever, and everybody was like, why? Like, but yeah, like, I mean,
it's different. Like
when I graduated, I knew so many people that enlisted, and like, we just knew automatically, like, they were going to Iraq or Afghanistan, like, period, end of discussion. That's what they were doing. And so yeah, it was very intense, and it was heartbreaking, and I think it's something that everybody should probably go see.
But be prepared because of those emotions. And I think...
and same with Ellis Island. Like, I think so many people think of Ellis Island as just like this beacon of hope. And it was for so many people. But
once they
there were some really atrocious things that happened to people in Ellis Island. And so even there, like, it was very humbling. Both of them were very humbling. But
well, because I mean, and I know, like, my ancestors immigrated, you know, some immigrated through there. And so just thinking about that, and, you know, the struggles that they went through, because they were coming here for their different reasons. And then even to this day, like, people immigrating into our country and some of the things that they face, like, it's still...
and I will say this, like, it has been a long time since I've felt pride in being an American, but like, looking at the Statue of Liberty and just knowing how many people have come to our country, and like, that was the first thing that they see as they as their ship like sailed into New York, like, it was like the first time in a very long time I've been like, I am an American. So yeah, like, I would definitely say, like, those are like things that, like, I feel like everybody should see. So then we did Bookcon and on Saturday and Sunday. On Monday
we did the Museum of Jewish Heritage. Because for me, because I had an Living Auschwitz exhibit, which I thought it was so well done.
It was very well done.
So informative. And because I teach the Holocaust.
And I feel like they kept it very somber. And because like, everybody had their own audio. Which Ellis Island, like, you could go get the audio, but there were still just so many people talking, and kids running from one end of the registry hall to the other. So it was like, it was very impactful in a different way. Well, like, you kind of had to ignore, like, the hustle and bustle at Ellis Island to, like, fully take it in. Whereas at the Museum of Jewish Heritage, like, it was pretty much just like you and your headphones and like what is in front of you.
And the videos and the survivors, like, interviews. And I felt the same type of feeling I felt at 9/11. Like, it had like, everyone respected what was, and like, took it all in.
And that was another thing. At 9/11, there were kids, but they were, like, it was very obvious, like, the parents were like, no, like, you're not running around, you're staying here.
It was very quiet and
just somber.
And it let you take it all in. And so, like, I think that's the other thing, is go to the Auschwitz, and because you had to get tickets, and I'm glad, like, I noticed that a couple days beforehand. So you had to get tickets because they kind of controlled how many people were in the exhibit at a time, which truly helped, because it's 3 floors. But I truly, like, they had some of the actual, artifacts, basically, like the shoes, the suitcases, some of the things that were brought.
One of the things that impacted me the most was the posts for the fence. Because, you know, you see aerial shots and they just look like posts to a fence, but like, when you're standing there and they are towering over you, and it's just like, it was very easy in that moment to, like, imagine being stuck behind that fence.
And I think the door to the gas chamber, which it was a replica, but it showed both sides.
The door didn't bother me as much as the column did, like the gas chamber column.
That and the shower head. Like, and then just some of the stuff that goes with it. Why
seeing
things
some
were
of the propaganda. One of the other things that really hit me was a picture on the wall, and it was a drawing of 2 men kissing, and like the plaque on the wall next to it talked about how in the 30s, Germany and Poland, I think, Germany, like, they were very accepting of homosexuals.
Right, there was like a gay like an activist there, and so people actually
and it was
moved
very
there for it.
and it was very accepting. And then you think about just how quickly it turned, and it was just really intense to see. And it's like, there was a quote on the wall, like when you walk in, and it was like just saying like it could happen anywhere. And I was like, yes, it definitely could. Once again, another thing that like I feel like everybody should see. I think everybody, even, I will say this though, I feel like with the videos, I would have liked to have been able to watch them at home, like by myself, so I could feel all my feelings. But I don't, like, they were still impactful in the museum.
Yeah, and I mean, they had poetry on the wall that was written by survivors or the prisoners. I think what was most impactful for me, there was 4 photos that were blown up that actually captured, it was from a prisoner who was on a special assignment. He worked with the crematorium. He was part of the Polish resistance and was able to smuggle in a camera. And these were the only 4 photos taken of the Nazis actually like cremating the bodies and having the prisoners undressed. And those were the only, and that's actually like got leaked out, and that's how the rest of the world found out what was truly happening, because all the other photos are actually taken by the Nazis. It's the Nazis recordings, so there wasn't anything done by that. And so this was, I mean, for me, that was incredibly, I mean, it just,
there was also video of one of the executions,
oh my gosh,
that happened.
Yes.
And that was really impactful to me. I think, and I hate to like relate it to something, because I mean, it's horrible no matter what, but there's the Romanov family, they were executed in kind of the same fashion, and it was just horrific to see. Well, and so I've just read a book about the Romanovs, so like I think that's why it's like present in my mind. But like the video and just the fact that like these like it really drove home the fact that like it was real people. Well, and just real, like, I mean, and even like the person that was talking about the video was saying like these were like people's like teachers and pharmacists and people they saw around town, and it was
well, and he broke it down, the historian broke it down by each person in the video, from the SS soldiers to the prisoners to even he's like, there's children watching, because up along the ridge it was just a group of, you know, witnesses, and like she said, like these were their pharmacists or doctors or teachers or whatever, and he's like, he was pointing out, you know, here you have these kids, because at the time only kids wore shorts.
See, okay, I just realized where I was going with the Romanovs. So with the Romanovs, it was a lot of their like people they interacted with every day that did it, and it was kind of the same situation here, where it was like people that like you see every day that
and they even said, well, and here's the local, because this was I think it was in like Czechoslovakia or Latvia or something. I know those are 2 different places in Europe, but where it was happening. But like even the local police's role, because they would have their regular rifles and stuff that were assisting the SS officers, and then even to the dog, like that jumps when the shot happens. Like he's like, who would bring a dog to this? But you see the dog startled, and then it's just like heartbreaking.
And then when they talked about the death march, that video, there was just a lot of moments. There was a lot of moments.
So if you're near New York, you need to go. I think that and 9/11 are like 2,
and Ellis Island and the Statue,
critical
all the places. In fact, the only place I would say that was kind of like was the Natural History Museum, honestly. Because it was just kind of like, okay,
unless you love dinosaurs.
Even then.
Oh, I think the dinosaurs are really cool to see all those fossils, because you don't really see them anywhere else. It's only at those big places.
The only thing that's, to me, that's cool about them is like, because you can see this, like the true scale of like me to a dinosaur. But like, there's so many people running around, and there's just so much going on that it's hard to like actually take in anything, because there's just people running around everywhere. And there's so many plaques. Like there's just so much information at each exhibit. Like there is no way that you could conceivably read every single thing in that museum in one day. There's no way. But yeah, I will say, like, I had the thought, because I actually, like, growing up, I loved going to the zoo. I loved going to the aquariums. And it's only been probably since I've been a teenager that I've really thought about, like, how the animals are treated. And so the Natural History Museum has a lot of exhibits of, like, models of the animals. So that's really cool. And I think that that's probably where we're gonna go in the future, other than, like, conservations. But, like, I was just thinking, like, you could have, like, animatronic animals to, like, show the animals to children for, like, educational purposes. I don't know. That part was cool, but, like, I don't know.
And then they even talked about how, like, there was one exhibit, how it showed, is it of Jamestown or something? Like, the Pilgrims with the Native Americans. And even showed how, like, they added to it about showing, discussing, like, the prejudice in it. Like, it just showed the kind of the happy side, like, oh, the Pilgrims and Native Americans worked together, but they're like, no, like, they actually corrected their own history, that's, you know, and discussed how it wasn't that way, and, like, the mistreatment to the Native Americans and stuff. So I think that's good. Like, they included some stuff dealing with climate change and global warming, which is I think critical, and that was in their, like, earth section with the tectonic plates and minerals and all that. And so,
which I sped through, because even in physical,
I know, I was like, where'd she go?
Even in physical science class, I was like, I am done with this.
No, I love that stuff. So
I hate that stuff.
I took geology in college, and but no, I thought it was really neat. And that was
like, all the exhibits were really well done. It's
a
just
lot.
The fact that there's just so many people running around, and just, it's loud, and it's just hard to take it in.
I will say, because I went to New York in March a few years ago, and so when we went there was not nearly, and I think that's the thing, is knowing it's in June, it's a tourist season, and so just like around Christmas time,
the fact that it was the last thing we did, so, like, our feet were killing us, so I was just like, I want to go home. Like, I am done.
I was gonna say, their subway stop is really cool, because their tile, there's crazy tile work, and the whale and all this other stuff.
The whole subway system I really like. Like, I mean, we already talked about that for a minute, but the fact that, like, all of, like, it's interesting to me that, like, the tile is so intricately done in certain areas of it, because it's like, this was clearly meant to be, like, something that was, like, nice. And now, like, you don't think of the subway as, like, upper class travel. You think of it, you know, not as upper class travel. And so, yeah, like, that part was just interesting to me. And then it's cool that, like, the Natural History Museum has kind of their own stop and things like that. And it was, like, 15,000 times better than Ubering.
Yes.
Not just because it's in New York, but because I don't like Uber. So, I don't know. I've always heard that, like, either you really love LA or you really love New York. And if I had to pick one of the two, I would pick New York, I think. But then again, LA has Universal. So.
I'm right there with you, EXO. Yeah, New York. So yeah, that was it, because Tuesday we weren't going to do anything. Our flight left that afternoon, so we just went there to the airport and came home to our puppies.
Yep. Who are very happy that we are home.
Yes.
So yeah, that was pretty much our trip. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode.
Hope you learned some tips if you want to do Bookcon in the future.
We totally missed some AuthorTube drama while we were gone.
Yes.
There's a debate about ARCs and whether they should always be free. So we might talk about that next week.
Yes, and then
just
remember
that out there
to read The 1000th Floor
by Catherine McGee,
because we'll be talking about that too this month.
And you know, go ahead and go pre-order
American
Royals.
Yes. It's worth it. It's worth Hunger Games.
It's worth it, and I will be buried with it. So there's that.
Well, I'm kind of glad I got a special copy because someone was nice to me. So but yeah, I know, because I could not do all that.
All right, so yeah, that's pretty much it for this episode. Make sure you leave us a review. It really helps us out.
Give us some thumbs up.
Thumbs up, subscribe,
comment,
all those fun things. And we'll see you next week.
Yeah.
Bye.